My name is Ruhul Amin Kajol. I make it, artist name is Ra Kajol. So it's nice with me, this Ra means sun, and in Denmark I miss sun. So I thought that it would be nice to have this name with me, and also it's shorter. So Kajol is the nickname, so everybody call me as Kajol.
But you are so known that you already had last year a retrospective.
Yes.
So in Bangladesh, where you come from, they made. Can we see your book?
Yes.
You had already a retrospective with 10 chapters about your old production, the last 40 years or 30 years. The retrospective started in what, in 83?
Yeah, the series of 83, but the works are also from earlier, 78 till 2011.
Can we see the inside of this book, like a little bit? So it's because you produce so much. You produce from you do this outside work. You do painting. You do sculpture.
Yeah, this is my student life. It's my own shoes and my own bag, which I was carrying the color. So I like to make a still life that time, and also I made some landscapes. So here is the series called Colony. I started my first series work in 83, and I had a show in 84. That was my first exhibition, and this was the first painting of that series.
So the museum in Dhaka had a whole floor with your artwork. So it was in which town in Bangladesh? In Dhaka.
In Dhaka, and I studied in Dhaka.
So you had the whole museum with your artwork. So
yes, I have some works in the National Museum in Dhaka, and also collection to some private collections. And so after this series, so I had a series called Society.
Yes.
And this is the started of the Society. I started with the painting Adam and Eve. This is the human history which we know. And then in this society there was crises I also used, and I also used that my society was dominated by man. So it's a male-dominated society, which I was thinking that I should expose something from that. And so since then, and then my next series was Love. That was more personal, individual persons. So something to do with my life too also, that's how I began to realize about love. So that came into this paintings. And then some also a little bit of this epic stories, the Lada and the Swan, so I put a bird instead. So these are the series I did it when I came to Denmark. So something changed in the color. I used more white, which I never used before, and that is the new dimension in my work. And then I used some of the my work, the studies, when I was a student. Some watercolor and paint. I had a bit surrealistic feelings at that time, but I call it poetic surrealism. It is a more Indian style, you can say, because there is nothing to do with the social realism, which I believe the European surrealism was based on social realism. But our surrealism is very poetic. It can be fantasies, and then fantasies go towards a poetic expression. So that has been used, and watercolor. So here is the same. It's a tribal king, and tribal king is so decorative. The faces, everything is a tattoo and all these things. So these are the early works, and then the series started to change in the 90s. The imbalanced world. That was in 91. I worked on this. And show I had in 92 in Dhaka. So imbalanced world was in two part. One was in society, and another was based on nature. So the society was that the racial differences and discrimination was very highly exposed in the early 90s, and then I thought that I should do something. So my motive was chosen like one eye with two people. And two people with two different colors, like a brown and blue color or green. So these two different races, but we see the same when we see one thing, and there is the same thing we see, though we had a different color. So this is what I was taught, that there should be a balance in this. So our vision should be equal. And then the nature was also another which was disbalancing the world, because we are hunting the nature without any vision. So that was something to talk about, because we should have some vision when we hunt the nature. So when we hunt nature, so we must think and we must realize. So this is what based on that. So I call this the Visionless Hunter, this series, and this series was Modern Peace. Because why I call modern peace is because the peace word has been used in, always. It is to stop the war, but I wanted to have peace in the society, where it should be actually based on society. This is not a military word; it is a social word, that is modern peace. So that means we are modern people. We should realize that we all human beings are same. We have the same feelings, same kind of vision. We see the same thing. So why not we behave the same and together, live together? That is what my motive. This next series was violence, and by this time, the early 90s, there was a lot of violence was taking place in the world. People are killing each other very strangely, departing bodies. That's what my motive. So here, actually, I wanted to show that these figures are a complete human being, but the motive is just one leg, and one leg is it hurt, it is bleeding, but the head is growing from that dead body who wanted to stand up again and to protest. So they are not dead. So you cannot kill all. So there will be always some human being will raise up, and then they will protect the other people too. So that's why this motive was like this. And the next was national flag. This is a very special subject which was based on the nationalism, how it was growing, and then how nations were in crisis. Slowly, there are many nations were in crisis to keep their national pride or national flag. Someone else would like to take it away.
When was that?
It was 93 I worked on this, and then 94 I had the show. So this motive was, I choose this Bangladeshi flag color. It was green and red. So this red is a sun, and then the sun is very much angry, and is growing, and is blood and all this on the green landscape. So these are animal, and they are running with their back and the tail. There's some kind of enjoyment and very bloody. So blood and joy. This is something very strange combination. So the next was Song of Loneliness. Song of Loneliness. That was a kind of very personal feelings that somehow you could become very lonely when you are not living in your own country. So that could also give a openness, because if you can conquer your loneliness, then you become more open. And that is what I tried, and it's a kind of therapy also with yourself, that you can conquer your loneliness. Then you become so open, so you are no longer lonely, so everybody is with you and you are with everybody. So these feelings developed since then, while I was thinking of that period, on that period. And the next series was Coal Fire. This was a personal experience of my living in the north, in Europe. So the winter I experienced each and every year, and then I saw this cold snow landscape, white landscape. So this time I was thinking that I should do something about this experience. Then I call it Coal Fire. It means the ice also can burn you, like fire can burn. So these two elements has effect is the same, only just two different elements, but the function is same. So that way I call it Coal Fire. And I also found some other philosophical idea, that is people living in these two extreme climate, they would behave the same in some extent in their mind. So if they are dogmatic, and they can be both very strongly dogmatic, compared to the equator, where the tropical climate, the people are less dogmatic, they are more flexible. So this is what I found, the idea of this. The northern people have very strong dogmatic ideas on some particular things which is very difficult to change. Like the people in Middle East, they're living in desert, very hot, they can be also very strongly dogmatic in some point and very difficult to change them. So these two kind of group of people would be very equal. And then those who are in equator, doesn't matter in Latin America or in Indian, so this equator atmosphere, people have the very similar attitude that they are more flexible. They can think a lot and they can go on much beyond their reach. So this was the landscape what I experienced. So I put it in this way, a specialty with this, that there are some trees and sometimes they look like a human being also, and some are because when there's snow fall and they stay on tree and branches, sometimes it looks like there's a cat sitting, or there's a mouse, or some insect or something. So there's always some other fantasy ideas can grow when you look at that landscapes. And this is a very special time. In the late 90s, mid-90s, it started to be changing the whole world, politics and everything. Even the time, the century is going to change. It's turning to a new millennium. So everybody was very much concerned about this, what is going to be when it's year 2000, and how we will use it, how we will count this year. Is it a zero, or is it what? So I thought that it is really a very special time, because it's a 0 point, it's a 0 time, and then from the 0 it starts 01. So when we write our year, when in the date, that's like 11/11/99, and then after it will be 1100. So this 00 is the beginning of a new time, it's a new era, and it can go either this way or the other way. A circle, when the circle is moving, you don't see which direction is moving, you only see this moving. But it can change the other direction. So once it's changed the other direction, then the whole thing starts to change the other way also. And that was my concern, that, and I was also afraid that whether it will change to a very opposite direction or not, or something totally different. And that is what the time also about the technology was developing so highly, strongly, and all over the world. And the word, creating word, it became also a new phenomena in whole world, that everybody has to find a password, a unique word, which is only one word you can find. And that has been chosen by all people everywhere, here in Copenhagen or in Dhaka or in Nepal or wherever, or in Maldives. So everywhere people were creating a word. So I thought that this is a period of numerological period, which is later alphabet will be very much influential matter in our life. And that is what is happening today. So I was creating word, and then this is also partly of that. So I choose to do something about this new millennium situation. Then first word I created, that was democracy, which we normally know as democracy, but I hear it democracy. Perhaps that is the real word. And then the next series, next work was Religion. We say religion, but I think it's religion, because you must kill to establish your own faith or your own God. So this way the people were killing each other to establish their religious faith, so I would rather call it religion. Because in generally we know religion means harmony. So it is harmony, it is not religion. So that's why, so my next subject was religion. This is the democracy. It's a demon-like crazy, which I would if I describe it, the word. And the Kajol. And the Kajol was based on that we are killing another person is a kind of killing yourself, because the other person is the same as you and your life and the soul. So the soul will be destructed or destroyed, then you can destroy your own soul. So it was the motive was a kind of, if you see here, that it's a body and your neck, and then the whole head, you actually pressing your own head inside your body. So you somehow are killing yourself. And then there's a red net around, and this red net is symbolizing of some power that which is covering the whole of you. So you were captured by this network. And this network system is the modern time that we talk today, the network. And anything will function or execute through network. So that's the Kajol period. And the next one is altogether, so we are ending into more evilization rather than civilization. Because if we follow that way, if our philosophy is this, that's democracy, Kajol, then we are evilized, not civilized anymore. So this is how I ended, and 3 exhibitions together I call tree exhibition. It's also a new word I created. It is not a trilogy or trilogy, because it's not film, so it's exhibition. So why not I call it tree exhibition? So it is tree exhibition. So my first tree exhibition with these 3 series: democracy, Kajol, and evilization. So this is the evilization motifs which I choose. Some animal. I call these paintings individually as a light of shadows. Light of shadows. That means the shadows are actually your evil side, which is inside and you don't see it. But once it's the light falls on the shadow, then you see the motive, you see the structure. So that's why I call it light of shadows. And these are the shadows. Actually looks like this when the light comes, and they are very much evil type, and they are trying to suck instead of bite. This is more stronger than biting. A demon can bite, but still you can survive. But if you're sucked, then you're gone, you vanish. So this is the evil's attitude towards our civilization. So they would create evilization. That is what the motives. And here you can see the shadow, and the light of this shadow is this sort of animal which was inside a cage and start to play the game on the table. And now these are some old works. My student life, I was very much fond of drawing and sketches. So this is the portraits, and these are pencil portraits from my sketchbooks, and some paintings with oil color, some self-portraits, and also some models from the classworks. So this is something, the work which I will never forget, because this is how I started, and this, I think I was more pure to do these things. It was innocent and at the same time very much enthusiasm together. So innocency can be your original things, and that is how we grew. I mean, my childhood I was innocent, and still I try to remember and realize that moment how I used to think. So I do think exactly the same way still. My curiosity, same as I was kid today. And so there are some drawings, sketches, some drawings also. These drawings are, this is my wife. I draw with the signature pen, the color felt pen. And there are some fantasy drawings. And this is watercolor landscape. This is also done when I was a student. And these are pencil sketches. This again is a drawing from Liz. She's sitting with pipes. So these drawings I did in '83, just after when I met her and started living with her. And some watercolor sketches. Many people, it's a crowd, and we used to go in the station to draw people in the night. And there's some few graphics which I did, some prints, and some woodcut, and this is a aquatint. And but this motif is actually a very interesting motif. I painted also on this motif again, and I also made a sculpture. It's all and the human being. So these three women, as a classical form, these three women, and then they are like a kind of a ghost or something. So this is the childhood memories, that how we learn about the ghost and other things, you know. So there's also some graphic. This is woodcut. So that's all.